much. I'm afraid I might be the one who is going to burst the bubble of all this excitement of what AI is doing or not. I'm a computer scientist who turned into some social political scientist due to the need to understand the impact of what we are doing. And I have been working at the intersection of computer science and social science for some time. How this works? Okay, so AI, and today, every time in one way or another, we talk about AI, it goes back to the idea we need a lot of data, we need algorithms, powerful or not, but we need algorithms, we need computational power. Yes, but what does this mean? And what is the implications of all of this? Let's start by looking at the data. What does AI see of the world? And maybe I should be a bit clarifying. My work is usually around the AI systems that directly impact people, the chatbots, the algorithm decision-making, the recommender systems, and less the more scientific applications of AI, although a lot of what I say might also apply to the scientific applications. Okay, so the data. This is how AI sees the world. And moreover, of this data that this is work by the Mozilla Internet Foundation. 50% of the data that is, the data sets that are in that blue part of the world are controlled by 12 institutions. So when I will talk about power later again, we see that the power is very unbalanced as much as the data is unbalanced. Looking at algorithms, I have been working in AI since the mid-80s. I built real-life AI systems already in 1986. And so since that, and still now, the idea of AI, and as we build AI as a rational system, a system that optimizes actions based on some type of preferences. Many of our colleagues in the social sciences, in the humanities, have pointed out that these principles, these properties that we associate with AI are very much the things that we appreciate in the global north cultures. Optimization, efficiency, rationality, autonomy, agency are all much more aligned with what we in the global north see important than what in global south. And I would like very much to hear more from our colleagues from the indigenous knowledge to see what they see about it. It is also one of the many ways that we people have to make decisions, to act, to understand the world and how we do things. So there is a big difference between how AI reasons, or how AI makes decisions, how AI understands the world, and the ways, the many, many different ways that we have. This all, and I'm not going to in details, leads to the idea that AI is, although we talk about artificial intelligence, is a different type of intelligence, and is also a different, not completely artificial. If we talk about, many of our colleagues in the social science and in biology have long ago demystified the idea that evolution is a linear thing. In AI, we still kind of feel and work from the assumption that intelligence is something that it's linear and it will grow. In our focus on the work on AGI, on superintelligence, we tend to forget the natural superintelligence that we already have. 2 people are more intelligent than 1 people. So in that, we have the superintelligence there already. And maybe we should focus much more on developing the artificial superintelligence as a way to support the natural superintelligence to really help us work together and solve problems together, and really putting all our intelligence combined, the artificial and natural, to the work. It is also kind of obvious that being able to manipulate language, as chatbots do, is not really just a proxy for intelligence. And that leads to all the discussions. The way we build AI, the way we are using AI, the way we are dumping AI into the world for other ones to deal with the problems, leads to a lot of consequences. More and more we are aware of these consequences, but it's important to realize that all AI impact means human responsibility. There is no excuse never to say, the computer said so. So why do we care about artificial intelligence? We start by the issue of datification. Reality is always more than data. Data is always constructed. It doesn't exist. It comes out of the process of deciding what do we build, what we collect, where we collect, how we collect, and that leads to the data that AI has. I already referred to the idea that intelligence is much more than the linear evolution. And maybe something very important for this academy is to think about, is there anything fundamental human in reality that might never be able to be captured by data? And are we in general, in our thirst to becoming more and more data rich, forgetting the need to become insight poor? And at the same time, we also should start thinking we need to start thinking of the ways and the process by which we are dealing with all this data and what is being affected and disrupted by all the processes of collecting data, like is the only thing to do in the world. Sustainability is another issue. We have talked a lot already today about issues of energy. There is also an increasing concern of the use of water. And some of the recent studies shows that in a couple of years, AI needs will be using more water than 5 times or 6 times Denmark. Just to put an idea. But it's not just about the computational costs, the energy and resource costs, but we also need to consider much more what are the human and social costs. Some time ago, we worked on evaluation of how AI impacts positively and negatively the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And yes, there is a lot of what can be done positive, but what we are seeing, this is work from 5 years ago, what we are seeing is that the negative impact on the Sustainable Development Goals is appearingly to grow much more than the positive impact. So again, here we really need to look at what we are doing with AI in terms of sustainability of society and all of us. Finally, the issue of power. Who is developing AI? We do all know that at this moment, the AI that we all citizens and people in the world use is being developed by a very small group of organizations that are for a large part private organizations and which have their own motives and decisions which we don't really necessarily understand or can influence, and definitely not by democratic process. Who is developing AI is also a very limited description of the world in itself, of the demographics of the world, so we have to look at that. Moreover, if we see, what we use of AI can be seen as the top of an iceberg, which is a whole complex of data, infrastructures, algorithms, process frameworks, and so on, which in this picture, as far as I try, can still look quite organized. We do see that those big companies are all over and working at all these levels. At the same time, we also see that in all this ecosystem, only a couple of companies, the ones in blue on the right-hand side, are non-profit and open source type of companies. All the other ones are mostly private and non-open source. But the point is, because they are working at all these levels, and if you think of these nice colors as plasticine blocks, what we are getting is what we get when we play with plasticine. A big blurb with no color and no shape anymore. And now we are trying to govern and to say something about this. It's impossible anymore. We lose on transparency, we lose on control, we lose on explainability, we lose on everything because we just made a big blurb or a mess out of all these frameworks and issues and components. So responsible AI starts by the idea, and Demis yesterday also stressed that a couple of times. It is an engineering science. We design these systems. Who should design what these systems are? Which values should be considered in this design? Those are questions that are much more outside of the computer science. In computer science, we never ask why. We only ask how, and then we run and do it. So we do need to think much more of responsible AI and of the design as a much more social question than a technical question. And we have design choices, and like any other design, is political and is dependent on all kinds of ways as we aggregate and involve the different types of information and the different choices and options that we have. How do we understand these choices? So the question is not so much about what is AI, it's much more about what do we want AI to be. We, people, are building these systems, and we need to ask ourselves, what do we want these systems to be? And we need to be aware that the choice that we are making today of building AI as a big, complex algorithm based on growing and growing amounts of data and computational power is a choice. We have other choices, and we can take those choices looking at abstraction, looking at symbolic reasoning, looking at causality, looking at many other directions which we are not taking because this so-called AI race sends us all in one direction, and we just run one after the other to find out, see who is the quickest to reach, I don't know which point, but we are losing a lot on the exploration of all the choices that we have. Choices like, do we want AI to be human-like? Why? What does that mean? Which human is we want it to be? Me, you, who? Is there an average human that we would like AI to look like? Do we want AI to be a tool? Great. Tools comes with affordance. As a left-handed person, scissors is useless to me. So every tool comes with affordance, and which affordance we are building and for who we are building the affordance that AI gives us is another question. Do we want AI to be a simulation, like in the original idea of AI? We build these models to understand how intelligence works, or do we want AI to be an active intervention in the world? Do we want AI to be this all-knowing, all-possible, all-understanding entity, or do we want AI to be a much more distributed good? How does that deal with issues of power, sustainability, and participation? And maybe the most important one, do we want AI to be normative, or do we want AI to be descriptive? Do we want AI to do as we say, or do we want AI to do as we do? And if you want AI to say as we say, who is going to say what norms AI should be? And those questions are, again, questions that we in the computer science, in the technical science, are not trained or not really able to answer, and therefore we need a much more multidisciplinary, including humanities and social science, to help us answer these questions, because these are the choices that we have, and do we need really to understand the implications of the choices that we have. What should AI be doing? Should AI decide, probably you cannot read the joke, but should AI tell us help us with deciding what our motives, or should AI just tell us to do what we tell her to go with the car? Should AI do what is best for me, or should AI do what is best for all of us? It is different, and who is going to decide? If we take ethical, moral, legal space, we do know that the decisions are taken in a very fluid space in which what is morally acceptable or what is socially accepted or what is legally allowed is not always aligned, and it changes from one to another culture, from one to another time, from one to another situation. And therefore, if we want AI to take decisions in the world, where are those decisions going to be placed, and who is going to deal with the consequences of the positioning of those decisions? Also because talking about safety and talking about the consequence of AI, we cannot have it all. We need to make choices. Those are political choices that need to be made. So we move into the governance, and I'm not going to, given the time, just say we need governance because none of us would go in a car if we know that the car has no brakes, no seat belts, the person who is driving the car has no driver's license, and there are no traffic signs. Also, if we talk about the game or the race, in a race without rules, no one is going to win. So we really need it from all kinds of directions that we would like to go. There is a lot of work being done on that, and the Governing AI for Humanity report from the United Nations that was referred to yesterday and from which I had the privilege to contribute to is one of the many. They all are providing principles and guidelines. They all are pretty abstract. They all will say things like AI needs to be fair and aligned with human rights and sustainable and so on. None of them are really giving the operationalization that we need to know. Okay, great, I want to align AI with human dignity, but as a computer engineer, how am I going to do that? And more importantly, we do need also to work on the means to verify that the systems indeed are doing what we tell or we expect them to do. There is much more to governance than just regulation, but I will just move forward to end up with responsible AI is not a choice. Thinking about what are the choices that we want to deal with AI is not just a matter of innovations versus the regulation or ethics. It's really about looking at responsibility, looking at ethical, and the human imperative is the only way forward. And innovation is as much benefited from the idea that we need to have regulation than so it's much more a stepping stone for the innovation that we need. And innovation is more than just technical innovation. We need to also look at organizational regulation, governance, social, and so on. Thank you very much.